Hi everyone, my name is Eric Addison. I'm the owner of 100 Acre Films, a video production company, and I'm also the president of the San Diego Premiere Pro user group. And at a recent meeting, we were talking about green screen keying and how you don't really need to have a big budget in order to do it anymore. Mostly because the keyers have become so powerful that you can have a really pretty primitive green screen background, and the keyers are able to pull a really decent key from them. So this example was something that I showed at the meeting, and as you can see here, this is a shot of my wife driving a car. But if we pull away the effects here, you'll see that she is actually, let's turn this off, it's all shot with green screen. So, and you can see that it's actually a pretty bad green screen at that. We've got some punches here. It's a piece of foam core. We've got some dents right there. It looks like a little spot of something, kind of throughout it. And so in spite of all that, we were able to pull a decent key, and I was able to key in some road footage here, and it came together pretty well. Let me show you the before. We'll click over here. So there's my wife Jill, and she's fake driving the car. And so that's that. And then let me show you what the finish looked like. We'll come over here. We'll click on this. And that's what we finished with. So, I mean, that looks pretty good. Is it ILM quality? Well, that's up for debate. But you know what? I think it looks pretty good. And if you needed just to have a quick shot of someone driving a car and you couldn't afford to go out and get it, or for whatever reason, this is a good way to get that shot. So let me show you how I did it. We'll start in After Effects. So let's start from the beginning. We'll create a new composition. And we can like all of those settings right there. So we'll call this driving shot. Alright, click OK. So let's get our footage here. So this is the shot we have of Jill driving. Let's set this to fit so we can see the whole thing. I'm going to come here somewhere in the middle, and I'll set an in point. Oops, let's see. So I'm going to set an in point. We'll just get a few seconds of her. There we go. And let's set an out point, and then we will insert that down in. Let's actually make that just a smidgen longer. There we go. Let's tighten this up. Okay. So now we've got our footage of Jill driving here. We've got about 10 seconds of it. And so next thing we'll need to do is get our background. And so we've got our road footage right here. And I've already got some footage marked there, in and out. That's a good portion of the highway there. So I'm going to insert that in. And I'm going to drag that beneath. So get that lined up, and I'll trim that up a little bit. Alright, so first thing we need to do is do our key. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to choose Effect, Keying, Key Lights. I could use Primat for this. I actually have Primat from Red Giant installed on my system, and I really like that keyer. But for this one, I'm going to use Key Light because everybody has access to it. So we'll click on that. Let's get sample our green. And right off the bat, you can see we've got a pretty good key there. I'm going to check the screen mat here. That all looks pretty good. You can see some of the little problem spots there, but you know what? Key Light's pretty powerful, and it's going to take care of those. So, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the art of keying here. That could be a whole nother tutorial. So I'm just going to assume, for the sake of this tutorial, you know how to pull a good key. So let's see. Let's work on those glasses a little bit. Let's not go too far there. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. I'll shift that over to hard color. We'll shift this to final result, and we're looking pretty good. That's not too bad. So now we've got that done. The next thing we need to do is add our window. If you remember from the sample video that I showed, if we click back over here, you can see that we have some dirt on the window right up in here. And if you look between the two, you'll see it's bright blue sky, a little bit of schmutzy stuff right there. And I don't know about you, my car windows are usually always dirty because I never seem to wash my car enough. So to get that dirt window feel, what I'm going to use is this rough texture. It's just like a picture of a piece of concrete, I think. So, but what I'm going to do is drag that down. As you can see, we've got our piece of concrete there outside the window. Now if I use one of the blend modes, and if I choose Add, That's pretty blown out, but we're on our way. So I'm going to twirl down. I'm going to adjust the opacity. I'm going to bring that down right about there. That looks pretty good. So now you can see we've got just a little bit of it there. You can kind of see, and it kind of loses it down here. But this is where I kind of wanted to make sure we could see something there, like the dirt. So now we've got our dirty window. The next thing we want to do is have a reflection of Jill. If you notice in the shot that I showed you, I actually went in and there's actually like a reflection of her in the would-be glass here. Let's see if we can find a better frame of it. But you can kind of see it right here. There's her nose, there's her glasses. It just sort of adds to the realism of the shot. Well, to get that, all we have to do is duplicate our layer here. So I'm going to hit Control D on Command D if you're on a Mac. We'll duplicate that layer, and I'm going to take this top layer and I'm going to drag it underneath. So now you can see I've got my top layer, I've got the dirty window, and I've got what I'm going to call the reflection layer here. And so I'm going to come down, I'm going to choose Transform, and I'm going to slide this layer out a little bit. I'm going to bring the opacity down. Right around there is probably pretty good. I'm going to also rotate it a little bit. Just a little bit, just to make so it's not exactly right. So let's kind of move that position up. Let's move it up there. So that's looking pretty good, but I want to really kind of have a little bit of distortion in it, sort of match what the glass would actually be doing to it. So I'm going to turn this off. You can kind of see that's just our reflection. I'm going to come up to the Effect, Distort, and Ripple. And what the ripple effect will do is kind of give me a little bit of distortion in there. So I'm going to adjust the radius here. I'm going to adjust the width and the height. You can kind of see it's starting to distort it, like you can see, notice it right there. If we turn the background off, we can probably see it a little bit better. There we go. And so let's kind of just get it so it's not quite 100% there. That's looking okay. So you can kind of see it. That's without it, that's with it. So I like that. It's real subtle, but it does the trick. So now we've got our reflection layer, we've got Jill, we've got our dirty window. The only thing left I really want to do is two things. I want to kind of fix this background. The background shot is a little bit bright. So I'm going to come up to Effect, Brightness and Contrast. Let's see, where's my color correction? Brightness and Contrast. And I'm just going to kind of bring that down just a little bit. There we go. Adjust our contrast a little bit. One more thing I'm going to do to the layer of the reflection is I'm going to add a brightness and contrast to that as well. So let's come back to color correction, brightness and contrast. And I'm going to bump up that brightness a little bit. Maybe not that much. Dial that back just a little bit. And that's just to sort of help us see that reflection just a little bit more. So, not that much, maybe like right there. So that's looking pretty good. I might want to adjust that brightness just a smidgen more. We just want to barely see it, but we want to definitely see it. And I'm going to adjust that position one more time. As you can see, it's sort of an art of fine-tuning it. You want to get it just right. You kind of have to play with it and just kind of say, that looks good. I'll change that to 8 and see how that looks. Okay, I'm very happy with that. 8 looks good. It's just barely there, but you can tell there is something there. That's the look I'm going for. So, okay, so we're almost there, I think. So one more thing we need to do is add a warp stabilizer to our background. We want to stabilize the kind of shakiness of the car shot, because I just shot that sitting in the back seat of my wife's car. So we're going to come up to Animation, Warp Stabilizer, and it will, that's fine. And you can see that it's going to work in the background. It's going to analyze that shot for me. But while it's analyzing it, one more thing that I want to do is I kind of want to adjust the color correction on Jill. She looks okay there, but I want to give her a little bit more saturation. So I'm going to come to color correction, and I'm going to come to hue and saturation right there. And I'm just going to bump up her saturation a little bit. And you can see it's giving her a little bit more color in her face. You can kind of see if I turn that off, turn that on, and that looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go for that. Now, one other thing that I'm going to do while we're waiting for the stabilization to go is I'm going to add a light wrap to her. Now, Red Giant makes a plugin called Key Correct, and Key Correct has what's called Light Wrap. And Light Wrap is a great tool. I'm going to change the background layer here to the background. And you can see automatically right there, if I turn it off and turn it on, it gives her a little bit of light right around the edge of her face. And for me, because we did this so cheaply, we didn't use any lights for this. This is all natural light. We kind of want to sell the fact that there's actually sunlight coming in through the window. And this kind of helps with that, I think. So I'm going to bring the width up a little bit here, and that might be a bit too much. Let's dial that back just a smidge. Yeah, right there. That looks pretty good. I don't want to get too much more with the brightness, but you can see if I get really crazy with the brightness, it can get super, super bright. That's probably a bit too much. So let's change that to 0.5 and see how that looks. I think 0.5, maybe 0.25. That looks pretty good. So you can see without, with, and again, that might be a little too much. We'll dial the width back a little bit. Just fine, like right there. So that just gives her a little bit of like a bright kind of rim light while she's driving the car. So we'll wait for the background to stabilize, and then we'll take a look at our completed shot. Okay, so here's our completed shot. You can see we've got the background stabilized, we've got our dirt on the windows, we've got our reflection of Jill kind of in the window there, and we've even got a little bit of glow around her to sort of sell the shot. And we did that all with just one piece of green foam core and just natural light and my car and driving to get some background footage. So as you can see, you don't have to have a lot of money and a big budget with a lot of fancy stuff to pull off, a decent looking driving shot. You can do this in your driveway with just a piece of green foam core and After Effects. So now, again, as I said at the beginning, is this ILM quality? Will they be calling me up to show them how to do this kind of stuff? Probably not. But if you're in a pinch and you need to grab a shot like this, and for a lot of videographers, when you're out in the field and a client says, hey, it'd be great if we could grab this kind of shot, now you can, and you can do it relatively easy, and it doesn't look that bad. This would probably work for a lot of different productions. I hope you really got something out of this tutorial. It's just a little sample of the kind of stuff we do at the San Diego Premiere Pro User Group, where we try to find ways to help filmmakers who work on smaller budgets or bigger budgets, find good ways to get things done cheaply and fast. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.